Good morning, y'all. This is Jerry with Heart and Hand Creations. I'm going to start making some Christmas cards today for my vendor market that's coming up in November. It'll be a holiday theme right around the Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year season. So I've got a simple, sweet little Christmas card that I'm going to make. It's going to be an A2 size card. So I've gotten most everything cut, but today I need to do a couple of things. It's going to have some trees on it, and I need to cut those out. So I've got my die here and a couple of little pieces of scrap paper that I can use. And I need to emboss with an embossing folder a snowflake pattern on a piece of paper. So I don't know if you can see it very well here, but you see it's got lots of snowflakes on here. So I'm going to emboss that. And I've got a Sizzix Big Shot and my plates. I may have to replace these plates. They're starting to look pretty bad. How often do y'all replace your plates? Do you worry about that? I know how to straighten them out when they get a little warped. But you know, mine are so well used. I don't know if that matters. So let me know in the comments below what you do about your plates if you replace them very often. I do have the magnetic mat. I did get that one, but you see that this is well used too. I do like this mat because the dies do stay on here and I don't have to use as much of the low tack tape to keep them in place. So I do like that feature. So with that, let's get started. Since I already have my paper in my folder, I do need to straighten it up a little bit. I am going to go ahead and do this first. Now some people wet their paper. I haven't gotten that technique down very well yet. When I wet my paper before I emboss it with an embossing folder, it tends to warp. And so I need to learn better how to do that. If you use that method, let me know how you do it so that it doesn't warp the paper. Maybe I'm not using thick enough paper or something. I've used 65 pound. Maybe I need to switch to my 80 to 110 pound paper to do it. Maybe it won't warp so much. But anyway, so here I'm just gonna emboss this. I'm gonna run it once through my Big Shot, Sizzix Big Shot. And what we're gonna do is I've got a pattern that I cut out with scissors to make a kind of like a snow bank where these holiday trees are going to be sitting on. So I'm going to cut that out in a minute. So let's look at so here we've got our pattern embossed paper. If you can see that there. I like this snowflake embossing folder. So I'll put that aside and get this plate in. Because I took one out since that embossing folder was thick. I took this platform out, the thinnest one, and just used the main platform and the two mats that I put sandwiched that between. Okay, now I'm going to make 3 trees with this one die. It's just a small little just a typical evergreen tree that you might find out west or that people use for Christmas. And I'm going to have 3 different colors. So here's a darker green, a coordinating one that has silver foil stripes, and then a lighter green. So this is kind of the color palette. And like I said, this is a very simple, it's just green and white with some embellishments on it. So we got that. I only have one die, unfortunately, so I can only cut one tree at a time, but that's okay. And one is actually going to be shorter than the others, and I'll show you how I do that. So let me just do this real quick, and I'll speed it up so that you don't have to wait on me to finish. Now this is the one that I'm going to cut shorter, and I want the lines to go horizontal. And what I'm going to do is just place the die partially on that so that some hangs off the edge at the bottom. And I'm going to have my peak of the tree, the top of the tree, to be green, and let the silver and green then cascade down. But this one is going to be a shorter tree of my three, the shortest one of the three. Okay, and so that one turned out fine. It's a little bit shorter than the others. And that is all I have to do with my Sizzix Big Shot. So let me move this aside, and then I'll show you what I've already got organized. I'll be right back. Okay, let me clean up my space. And I've got my cards here, but here I have let me show you what I have organized for our card making session. And I'm going to make 10 of these cards. I'm going to make 10 of all the cards that I display at my vendor market. And I got this organization idea when I was at Dollar Tree, and then I needed to do something because my other trays are all filled with various projects. So I needed something just to put on my desktop, just to organize things. And this is a black tray that I got at Halloween time from Dollar Tree. So I just pulled it out of my cabinet and decided to put these little bowls. These are the little bowls that you can get from Dollar Tree. They're very shallow. They're a set of 3 comes in. So they're $1.25 for 3 of these. And what I did was I put all my little various cuts in here. Here are the trees that I've cut. I've cut 10 of everything. And then my greetings, I'm going to put Season's Greetings. Since this, I've got my embellishments, I am going to add some silver cord because there's silver in the paper. So this is a metallic cord that I just got from Amazon. There's a couple of little green snowflakes, so I got a couple of colors here that coordinate with the cardstock, a dark and just a green. I've got the 2 little small stamps that I'll be using that are on this block. I'm not going to worry about getting out my stamping pad, the Misty. So they're just 2 little small dots here that I've got that. And then here's what I'm going to be doing with that embossing folder is making this little snowbank. So I've already cut some of them out. You can't really see that, but there's going to be a little bit of green, a very thin line of green. So I've cut a coordinating color out that coordinates with our trees. And I'll be putting these so that the green shows just above the snowbank here. So we're going to do all that. So let me get this off the tray and organize it on my desktop. My desktop is a little worn and messy. I just love it so much, and I do not want to replace it necessarily now when I'm at a vendor market, getting ready for a vendor market, because I'm going to have some expenses with getting displays and things. I just would rather put more of my money into getting my supplies more than replacing some of the major things in my my basic platforms and things that I have in my craft room. So see, I've got some beads here, some enamel beads. Some of them are kind of jeweled. All right, and some of this it may not be on camera, but I'll pull it in as we need it. And I've got some dimensional tape, just sort of a thin dimensional, to put the Season's Greetings sentiment on the front of the card. So I've got that there too. Okay, and I'll put this tray away. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is get my pattern paper, my embossed paper, and then a green sheet of paper, cardstock, that I'm going to use on the back here to cut out my pattern for my snowbank. So I'm just going to line these up, and I've got a piece of cardstock in here that is my pattern. Let's see. I think these are about the same. I think I'll use this one. It's a little bit more shallow on the rise of it. And I am going to just simply cut this out. So I've already got 9 cut out, so you didn't have to suffer through that with me. But I wanted to show you kind of what I'm doing. So you see, I've got my embossing my embossed piece of cardstock and my green piece. I've got everything lined up at the bottom. And now I'm just going to use my Tim Holtz scissors that I find easy to clean. And then I am just going to cut this out with my scissors, following my template. And this may be a little bit longer than my A2 size card. So I'll cut that off once I get it adhered. I'll cut that off the edge. And so see, now I can just put this on my card with a little bit of that green showing through above the snowbank. It's going to be just a thin line. And an A2 card, the size of it is 5.5 by 4.25, and this one is going to actually, instead of opening a traditional way, it's going to open up. It's going to be more horizontal in orientation. So I was going to just let you know that. Okay. Now what I need to do next is, I've gotten this one already done. So you see how that is a thin line? And I've cut this down. This is going to have green. I changed the direction of that. I'm not going to have a green matting on this. This is going to be white on a white card base. So let me get my card base here. And I will put this on. What I'm going to do is I've cut this 3 3/4 by 4 so that there is a margin around it. But on this side, I'm actually going to, on the right side, I'm going to leave it a little bit wider there because I'm going to put 3 little enamel dots down here at the bottom at the edge of my snow, just as a decorative. And I have a watercolor marker that I'll extend this green line over as that goes, and then just put those 3 little enamels there. So you'll see the final result. And then that gives me 1/4 of an inch around the edge and top of the card. I know you can't see it. I know you can't see it on here, and it may be frustrating, but you'll see it as I go along. So I apologize for that. Okay. So since we've got this glued down, and what I'm using for my adhesive is my ATG tape. I've got a love-hate relationship with this AGT tape dispenser. It works very well until it doesn't, and then it can be really frustrating. And if you want tape to come out all the way to the edge, the AGT doesn't do that for me. It skips a little bit and then runs a thin line. And I've got like 1/4 of an inch here of tape. So I use a thinner tape in here. So, but it does hold a good bit of tape so I don't run out like tape runners. You know, you get a tape runner and then it runs out pretty quickly when you're making batching cards. So I decided today I was going to use my ATG tape dispenser. Okay, so with that, let's see. Let me move these out of the way because I've already gotten this one adhered. And I am going to now look at where I want my trees. So this is the smallest of the trees. Let me bring my camera down a little bit closer. This is the smallest of the trees. And it is the one that has the silver in it. The silver horizontal. And what I want it to do is to be the one that is the most left. Then I'm going to put the dark green sort of even with that on that line. And then the one in the forefront is going to be this green one. And so what's going to be frustrating for me though is using that AGT gun to adhere this down. So I may get my tape dispenser, my one of these that I have. I've not found one that I particularly like over the other. I just get some from Amazon and get a box of them. Do y'all have a particular brand that y'all like in tape runners when card making? Let me know what you think about that. So let me put this on. So I'm just going to put yeah, there we go. Put this on. And I don't particularly like using wet glue, although when I'm making my scrapbooks and folios, I use a lot of wet glue. But in card making, I just feel like it gets a little warped and gets kind of messy. I get glue everywhere. I'm not going to lie. And I can't use hot glue because I get those little strings everywhere, you know, when you have your glue. Let's see if that's where I want that. Do I want it more? Let's see if I can widen this out a little bit. Oops, it stuck to my finger, not to the card. All right, see if that'll work before I press that down. Yeah, okay. And then we'll put this last one on. So you see how I've got these kind of in a line, and then I'm going to put my adhesive on the back here and put this down just a little bit so that it kind of is in line there. There. See how simple this is going to be? I love it though. I like being simple. I like the simplicity. And then that way I am going to put the greeting. I'm thinking about going ahead and putting it at the bottom so that all the embellishments really will be to one side, leaving this just a blank canvas. So we'll see how we like that once we get that made. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to do is I am going to put a piece of cording on here before I put my jewels. Now one thing I haven't done, which I'm going to do last, is there is a star that goes over the trees kind of this way with a little embellishment there. So I'm not going to put that down yet until I get these other things done. And this cording is going to have a bow in it. So let me get that tied. I'm just going to put it here, and I've cut off enough cord so that I can fiddle with it. And in this case, I am going to have to go against my rule and to put this down on the card. The bow, I need to keep it in place. So I am going to use a little bit of wet adhesive or glue gun, hot glue. So see, this is going to go here on this side. That's still a little big to me. I want everything to have good proportions. You know how that sometimes you get kind of, I get real caught up in that. I don't want things to look out of proportion, out of scale, I guess as artists say. Okay, so that's going to go there. So what I'm going to do is just turn this over and wrap it around to the back. I think I'm going to put some tape runner tape here to help me. Just to help me hold it in place for a minute till I get it situated. Well, this is not working out. Let's see how that's going to do. Okay, there we go. So we've got our little silver embellishment, our cord. Now what I'm going to do is get some wet glue, and I'm going to just I'll use a lot of Connect glue with Gina K. So I'm just going to put a small little dot here underneath the bow. Let's make sure I've got some in here. I'm going to put a little dot right in here and put that down so that it kind of sticks right there. I'm going to hold that for a couple of seconds. And I may need to put a weight on it. I can always use my stamping block. See, it's already starting to hold, but let me put my stamping block right there. Now what I thought I would do is with my Season's Greeting sentiment, I'm going to go ahead and put that on here with some dimensionals. So what I will do is, let me grab that out from under here. Where did I put it? See, I'm already disorganized. Ah, here we go. I'm sorry to reach across the camera. I have some cut here that is about it may be a little bit longer than what I need, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover the entire back with this dimensional foam tape because I don't want this to get mashed down. And I feel like if I just put one little piece, it could, then these edges could get bent back and become kind of have a smushed look to it. So what I'm going to do is just take 3 or 4 of these. See if I'm going to get 2. Let me start with 2 while that dries over here. Let me get 2. And see, I'm going to put this on here like that, and then I can cut off the excess. And let me get a couple more pieces here. And that's going to make it sturdier and I think hold up better. For my greeting, my sentiment. And what I am going to do is maybe put just a little splash of just a little bit of wet glue on there. Because I always wonder what lasts longer scientifically. Is it the tape or is it the glue? What's your opinion? So let me put that Season's Greetings right there. There. Now what I have are some gems, enamel dots that I'm going to put on. I think that's stuck down pretty well. Oh wait, I need to stamp. So let me line up my stamps. What I want is a stamp here near this bigger tree that is the darkest one, sort of on it and off of it, and then one out to the side. I think I'm going to move this up a little bit though. And maybe, let's see. I think I want it down like this. So if I put that one there, I think I want that one there. Okay, so these are going to be two different color greens. I want the darkest one out here to the side. So let me stamp that. And I'm just using, I don't have a particular brand of die that I like, but I got these little cubes from Alt New when they were having a big sale, and I could get some cubes. Right there looks good. So let me stamp that. And you know, using a block is always hard instead of a MISTI, because if it doesn't come out good, then I'm just SOL, right? Okay, I think that came out fine. So I've got these two colors on here. So that's looking cute. Now, I'm going to put on my star and then just a few little enamel dots on here. So let me get that star. I think what I want to do now is attach this card front to the card base. I've already had my logo name and website printed on the back of this card, and it's going to be a flip up, so it's 5.5 inches wide, and then it will be 4.25 deep when it's folded. I've already got it scored here in the center here. And so what I'm going to do before I put these little embellishments on, which are some little pearls and gems that have flat on one side, I'm going to go ahead and put this down on the card base so that it's not bumpy when I'm trying to get this down. Then I'll put the final embellishments on here. Okay, so let me just move this card base out of the way just for a minute. And I want to hold that string in place, but it's been taped on the back and secured. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the backing of the two-sided tape that's holding that down perpendicular to the way the cord goes. I'm going to get my ATG gun, and I'm just going to run that along the edges. Run it with the cord. One more side. And then I'm going to go diagonally across the center just so that lays nice and flat for me. So I've got this taped down. So now let's see if I can get this on here straight. That's always the issue, isn't it? So let's just get this on here. And remember, I've cut this card front a little bit shorter for one side because I'm going to extend that card front out and put gems on the card base. Okay, so just like that. Let me make sure that's stuck down. I'm not going to run my bone folder over it because I don't want to dent it. So I'm just going to make sure it's good and stuck down. Now we've got this plain side here, and it's going to stay pretty simple even here. But what I'm going to do is take this Tombow marker that is sort of a coordinating color, and I'm going to extend this green line, this green paper that is shadowing my embossed panel. I'm going to extend that there and then put some gems down here, as if it's got a little sparkling snowflake over here on the side, on the other side of this silver cord. So that's simple. I'm going to use the marker side, not the brush. Let me just turn that. And then I'm just going to go across here just a couple of times so that that darkens up just a little bit there. So I've got that extended. Now I'm going to get my wet glue to put these gems down. They do have a little bit of stickiness on the back, but I always worry that they're going to pop off real easily. So I do put just a spot of glue on to make sure that they will have a little extra stick. But one thing I am going to do is I've punched out, I've got a star punch. This is a star, and I'm going to add this to the center above this middle tree. I've cut it out of the same paper as this, and then a gem, one of the pearls, is going to go in the center. So let me just put, putting two-sided tape on the back of this is just so small. I thought that wet glue would be the easiest solution. So I'm just going to put this above there like that. Whoops. Let me get that in there. Any of you that know the struggle with wet glue, I do. I get it everywhere. I don't know about y'all, so my hands are I'm always having to put card bases, throw them out if I get too much wet glue from my fingers on there. But I also have this eraser, the art eraser, and it helps me get some of the glue up if it's not too bad. So now let's see, I got that on without getting too much glue. Now I'm going to just put a dot right in the center, some glue, and let me get my tweezers and see if I can get this gem on there. I have a pick and stick tool, but it doesn't want to pick up these larger gems. I don't think this one is either. Oh, there we go. And then I'm just going to put that right in the center. There we go. Okay. Okay, and I've got another one. I'm going to put it over here on this silver tree, sort of on the branch, just a little cattywampus right there. I think that'll be fine. Let's see if whoops. Y'all know the struggle is real. So I'm going to put that one there, just as a little decoration. And then I've got these smaller gems that I'm going to put, they're flat on one side also, they're just a little smaller. So I'm going to put one on this darkest green tree, and then 3 down here below that line on the edge. So let me put that. Let's see, I'll put this gem. I'm just kind of doing it a little random. Get these out of this glass. There we go. And then I can put that one right there. So that gives that just a little decoration, a little glisten. Now I'm going to put 3 tiny little dots down here of glue. I don't want to get too much. I'm just going to touch the tip right there, there, and there. And kind of line these up down there. And if I get that done, I think our card will be finished. I think that's what I'm going to do. That's going to, you know, sometimes less is more. So I am going to keep this one just real simple. Let's see now. How does that look, y'all? Does that look okay? Okay, I think that's going to be it. So here is our card, and it is finished. So we've got those pearls, gems down at the bottom, down here, that have a little shine to them. I don't know if you can see them because it's white on white. And then those pearls and gems there on the tree, as if it's snowflakes glistening, maybe in the sun or in the moonlight. And then you can see that embossing of the snowflakes and then the stamped snowflakes. So that is going to complete our card. So if I fold this on the fold line, I always fold it so that the mountain part of the, where it pushes in, the paper pushes in, I always fold it toward that. Now I will get my, get my little paddle here and kind of push that down. Do it on this side. And there we've got our card. And see, it's going to be blank inside. I could go back and put a little sentiment in here. I was thinking of leaving them blank. What do y'all think about that? Would you leave it blank or would you put a sentiment inside? So let me know down below what you would think. But anyway, there we go. Simple, simple card. I love simple. Okay, so with that, I want to thank you again for joining me. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And I will see you next time. Bye-bye.